A bell will sound when you have 30 seconds left. Speakers registered on the consent agenda items will be taken following the announcement of any items being pulled from consent agenda. Speakers registered on non-consent items other than public hearings and zoning cases will be taken together prior to those items being acted upon. Speakers will be given 3 minutes to speak on all items within those blocks that they have registered to speak on. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to your Fort Worth City Council meeting. I'll call us to order.
Tonight's invocation will be by Father Nicholas Hedzelis from the St. Demetrius Greek Orthodox Church. Please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the pledges of allegiance to the United States and state of Texas flag.
Let us pray to the Lord. Lord, have mercy. Our Lord and Savior, you became man and labored with your hands until the time of your ministry. You have said, apart from me, you can do nothing. In faith, I embrace your words, Lord, and entreat your goodness. Help this council and all those participants here tonight to carry out the work they're about to begin and to bring it to completion. Lord, enlighten their minds and strengthen their bodies that they may accomplish their tasks according to your will. Guide them to bring about works of goodness for the benefit of others and for your service and glory. For blessed and glorified is your holy name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, one God. Amen. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
The first item of business will be special presentations, with the first presentation being a certificate for the Beck School of Construction.
Excellent. I'm going to ask Mr. Robert Stearns, Economic Development Director, and is Gwen Wilson also here, or just you, Robert?
Gwen is.
Hi, Gwen. You're welcome to come down too. I know we've got important people to recognize, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Stearns.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. You all were probably wondering where is Christina Brooks, who is usually the one that presents this program. Christina is not able to be with us tonight, but she has been gracious enough to allow me to participate in the program. Some of you may not know this idea for this school was something that Gwen and I and Scott cooked up back when, oh, there's Scott, when Business Diversity was under economic development. And Christina and Gwen both know that I have such a huge, just feel a point of pride that this program has done so well. And Christina has just continued to take it to the next level. So I'm honored to be able to stand up here in her place today and talk about the Beck School of Construction. So the Beck Group, in partnership with the City of Fort Worth, started the first annual School of Construction in February of 2019. The Beck Fort Worth School of Construction program provides comprehensive training sessions to help MBEs learn more about different aspects of the construction industry that will assist them in their growth and development, improve their business operations, enhance managerial, technical, and administrative expertise, and learn how to do business with large public and private sector industries. And since 2019, the city and the Beck Group have spent approximately $24 million with business equity firms who have graduated from the school. So that's $24 million just with the firms with this school. And there's about another 10 million or so that is still in the pipeline. So it's been a great success for us, and we're very proud of everyone that has taken part in the program. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Granley and make some comments from Beck.
Thank you all, first of all, for having us. I just want to extend one message to our graduating class. This is just the beginning. This journey is not over. I want to remind you to take advantage of the resources that we're providing for you and make sure that we're always there for you. That the door is always open, our office is always open, our phones are always on. Thank you.
I also want to thank the City of Fort Worth. This has been an incredible partnership. Like Graylin said, it's just the beginning. We want to continue this, and thank you for the partnership.
Thank you all very much. And if the graduates are here, I know there may be due certificates outside. They could just stand for a second so that we could recognize you, and sincere congratulations. Much.
Next presentation is a proclamation for General Michael E. Langley.
And Councilmember Chris Nettles, I'll turn this one over to you to present. We're up.
I'm gonna go ahead and come down if the family will come down with me as well. I'll come up. All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. I do want to read this proclamation. We have legacy and honor in our presence tonight. And so I want to read this. City of Fort Worth Proclamation, Office to the Mayor. Whereas General Michael E. Langley, son of MSGT Willie C. Langley, retired Air Force, is 1980 Fort Worth ISD graduate of Western Hills High School and the graduate of the University of Texas in Arlington, beginning the military service in the United States Marine Corps in 1985. And whereas the general form military education includes U.S. Marine Corps War School and College and Command and Staff, and holds multiple advanced degrees, including a master's degree in National Security Strategy Studies for the U.S. War College and Strategy Studies for the U.S. Army War College. And whereas General Langley has been fighting and fought and served many campaigns, including the war in Afghanistan, was awarded several and multiple military honors and medals, including the Defense Superior Service Medal and the Legends of Merit and Bronze Star. Whereas we are pleased to celebrate and honor General Michael E. Langley, the son of the father who told him to aim high in life, and the product of Fort Worth ISD, as was nominated by the President Joe Biden, confirmed by the United States Senate, and became the first African-American four-star general in the Marine Corps 246-year history. Now therefore, be resolved, now therefore, the city of Fort Worth do hereby recognize and celebrate the achievement of Mr. General Michael E. Langley, United States Marine Corps. And I think that deserves a round of applause. And before we allow to speak, I do want to mention that the NAACP is hosting a recognition ceremony for General Langley in November of 2023. Invitations will come later. We have our NAACP president here with us. And so at this time, we'll let you have words.
I really have lost for words here, but you know I'm the proudest dad you ever want to see. And Michael, I would always say he was my most obedient child, because a lot of times he wanted to quit doing things. I said, no, I want to tell you what Churchill said, don't quit. And I want to say to these youngsters over here, don't care what happened, keep on going, don't quit. Many times he wanted to quit, but he did not. And I want to encourage many people. Michael, excuse me a minute. Michael's background, his granddaddy was a sharecropper. He did not go. He did not go to the academy. He worked his way up. And most people, before you make general, you have to go through the academy. He did not, and I'm very proud of him. Yeah. And thank you for this presentation, and I will pass this on to him. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Bivens, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Ola and Willie, before you sit down, I just wanted to commend you guys. For those of you who don't know, these are my road dogs. We have traveled together, Oklahoma, Texas, all over the state. And Christmas at the Langley's house is a very special time. I spent many Christmases there. And so I almost didn't come this evening because of something non-contagious, but still it's just real ugly what I have. But I'm so glad I did because I can take these pictures and show them to the rest of our extended family. And I'll see you for Christmas dinner. Congratulations.
And Estella, please let us know how we can support your event in November of 2023 to make sure it is fitting of such an incredible honor and person in our community. So thank y'all for hosting that.
Our next presentation is a proclamation for the Forest Oak Middle School football team.
So Councilmember Chris Nettles is going to join you down there. Look at these fine young men dressed up tonight. Congratulations. Chris really just wants to relive his football days, I think. We understand. We understand.
I do. I should have worn my uniform tonight.
Don't have no uniform. No.
I do. Y'all want to come up? I can probably take y'all somewhere with me as an army or something. This is feel pretty protected up here. I do want to just start out by saying I think it's very important that every accomplishment that we do in life, that we celebrate people, especially young men who are aspiring to be something great. We live in a world that sometimes is disadvantaged when it comes to men of color, and just men, period. And so, although this might not seem important to a lot of people, but this is a major milestone. These brothers got together and worked collectively to win state or district in their district conference. And so I want to tell you that first, as a black man, as a young man, and having 4 kids, 3 of them, my boys, 3 of them being sons, that I am grateful, I support you, I honor you, and if there's anything that we can do as a city of Fort Worth, please don't hesitate to give us a call. So I want to throw that out there before we start. So the City of Fort Worth proclamation from the office of the mayor and the city council. Whereas the 2022 Forest Oak Middle School football team tackled an exceptional season with dedication, sportsmanship, talent, and team chemistry, achieving great success from the school and the Fort Worth city and the Fort Worth community. Whereas winning the 2022 Fort Worth ISD Middle School District Championship brought honor to Forest Oak Middle School and recognized the hard work of putting each of them together, each student athlete this season. Whereas the unparalleled leadership of head coach Henry Wilson and the entire coaching staff, team, parents, and faculty and students body of Forest Oak Middle School were excited in the guiding of the team to the victory through the unwavering support. Whereas the 2022 Forest Oak Middle School football team is unstoppable force to be reckoned with. We look forward to the continued success for Fort Worth sports, Fort Worth ISD football, and Forest Oak Middle School athletic program. Now, therefore, the city of Fort Worth do hereby recognize and celebrate the achievement for Forest Oak Middle School football team today, signed the city of Fort Worth. So, we got a spokesman here today. You still speak. State your name and talk to us.
My name is Jaden Pickens. Thank y'all for coming, and this is a really big thing for me because I want to go D1, and half of us do too. And I want to thank all of them for doing their best and trying hard for wanting to come here to win city championship. Without them, we couldn't have won. And the coaching.
Great job, Jaden.
All right, I want to thank everybody for coming out this afternoon, and A special thanks to my coaching staff, Coach Daryl Primos, Coach Dion Daniels, and Coach Sterling Malone. They were not able to be with us this afternoon. Another special shout out to all my parents. My parents. Yeah. Without them being willing to let me borrow their children for hours on hours for games and practices and meetings, we would not have been able to make this happen here. And then, as you already know, a real big shout out to these young men, all right? I've coached at Forest Oak Middle School for the upwards about 5 to 6 years now, and this is the strongest group of young men that I have seen come through Forest Oak yet, and that is a big, big accomplishment. They have overcome so much adversity, day-to-day life, to get on that football field and do what really mattered to them, okay? And these are student athletes, okay? We do at Forest Oak put student before the athlete, and they achieved in the classroom just as much as they achieved on that field.
Thank you. And I do want to acknowledge the parents that are here. If you're sitting, would you please stand? And if you're standing, just wave at us so that we can acknowledge you today. Y'all pretty tall. Let me.
Yeah, you're gonna have to go around, Chris. Go around. When they come back from high school, Chris, you're really in trouble. Yeah. Congratulations, gentlemen.
This is the principal. I didn't fail to realize this is the principal for Forest Oak. So
Thank you very much. Thank you for bringing them.
Next will be the items to be withdrawn from the consent agenda.
That's fine.
Sorry. We have one item to remove from the consent agenda. That's MNC 22-1076.
And next is items to be continued or withdrawn by staff.
And there are no items to be continued or withdrawn by staff.
Next will be any consent speakers.
And we do have one, Mark Spear, but it's my understanding there's only if there's opposition, which I don't believe there is any on this item. Is that correct, Mr. Spear? Okay, thank you. Council, I think we can entertain a motion on the consent agenda. Motion and a second. Any other discussion, council? Please vote. Motion carries.
Next will be MNC 22-1076.
Sorry, I'm not ordering the agenda here.
And I believe Councilmember Beck has a.
Oh, that's right. I'll turn to Councilmember Beck. Thank y'all.
Okay. Let's see. I move that MNC 22-1076 be amended as followed: to reduce the acceptance of funds from Tarrant County from $2 million to $500,000 for the fiscal year 2023, with the expectation that Tarrant County will contribute $1.5 million in 3 $500,000 payments during the next 3 fiscal years as obligated in the interlocal agreement. 2, to replace the attached appropriation ordinance with an appropriation ordinance that makes the same reduction from $2 million to $500,000 and changes the receiving fund to the grants operating other fund. And 3, reduce the total amount of services agreement to the amount of up to $1 million for the first year with 3 one-year renewal options. I think I got it all.
Got a motion and a second, council. Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion carries.
Next will be announcements of upcoming and recent events, recognition of citizens, and approval of ceremonial travel if needed by council.
Excellent. I'll turn to Councilmember Carlos Flores first.
Thank you, Mayor. Melissa, whenever you have that ready. Okay, the city celebrated its Fire Station 45 ribbon cutting a couple weeks ago. That's something that came from the 2018 bond program. It's very important to the residents north of the loop, right off Harmon Road. Council members Blaylock, Crane, and myself were there along with Maddie Parker, wielding an axe to cut the ribbon, or the hose, more correctly. And Leonard. Sorry, Leonard, almost forgot. Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, Christmas is in the air, and there are toy drives that are going across the city. I contributed to 2, to Northwest Police Division, and also to our community centers there at the Diamond Hill Community Center, Zach Morris representing. So appreciate them having those toy drives. Next slide, please. And Christmas in the Stockyards, their annual parade went through. We expanded the route this year to include more business owners and more spectators for sure. Appreciate the Texas Cowboy Hall of Fame for lugging me around in their wagon. Great participation and smiling faces. Next slide, please. On December 7th, we celebrated the 81st anniversary of the Pearl Harbor attack there at the Joint Reserve Base in Fort Worth at their chapel. A solemn ceremony that's mindful and remindful of all of us of the importance of sacrifice by those in our armed forces. Next slide, please. All right, Marine Creek Ranch, a big and very participatory HOA in our area. That community had a grand Christmas event, big party. They had carriage rides, face painting, balloons, petting zoo even, with replete with a kangaroo and zebra. All kinds of things going on there, including Santa pictures. So that was a great event. My family and I enjoyed it very much. Next slide, please. All right, this is a first. Since I've been council member, I know I've gained weight, but they had me don a Santa suit. So I was there at one of our small businesses that just opened, Revive Coffee House off Roosevelt. That's the product of Cassie and Jacob Warren. So they coaxed me into being Santa there for a few hours, and it was really great to kind of see the kids' faces from that perspective, but some were a little suspicious of me, I think. Next slide, please. All right, Artes de la Rosa also celebrated their annual Mariachi Christmas, which is a big draw for them, and it was extremely well attended. It was hardly a seat open in the house. Great performance by Mariachi de Oro, and also Ballet Folklorico Inc. of Fort Worth and many others. So appreciation to their board and their volunteers for really putting the best foot forward when it comes to Latino arts. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. Our next is to Mayor Pro Tem Bivens.
Thank you. For those of you who have real important things to do this Saturday, I would suggest you add this meeting to it. We will have a meeting about Mosier Valley Park Saturday at 11 a.m. at Cathedral of Faith. And for those of you who don't know, Mosier Valley is where the first freed slaves settled in Texas. And it just happens to be in District 5. And you'll see signs along Trinity Boulevard, but I hope you'll come because we had $750,000 approved in the bond package for Mosier Valley Park. Keep in mind, this is near Veridian, this is near DFW Airport, it's near American Airlines corporate headquarters. A lot of people are going to come to this park, and I want people who live in Fort Worth to have a say in what they see next for next steps. Next slide, please. And if you don't get too tired from Mosier Valley, you can join me at 1 o'clock for the District 5 leadership meeting. We will be at the Handley Meadowbrook Recreation Center, And what I call this is leaders leading. And you will see neighborhood leaders showcased in panel discussions moderated by Fox 4's Dion Anglin. They're going to talk about very important topics, including fireworks and speed racing, street racing. A lot of people get concerned and just downright mad about the fireworks that come. We've got groups of leaders who've been addressing that with police and other topics as well, including why do developers want to keep bringing all these apartments to the east side? And so that's going to be a topic too. That's 1 o'clock at the Hanley Meadowbrook Recreation Center. Next slide. This I have to read. It is fun to see young students believe they can succeed. Yesterday, I attended a young architects workshop along with Fort Worth ISD trustee Quentin Phillips. It was put on by the Envision Center and McCormick Barron, the developer building the senior citizen apartment complex at Stallcup in Rosedale. Q and I told those students those apartments could not be built without architects. We told them architects make money, and told them their 3-hour workshops they were getting privileged to be in were designed to teach them more about becoming architects one day, and they were eager to learn. I want to thank Mike Vega for these amazing photographs. I want to acknowledge Suzanne Richards, who runs the Envision Center, Loretta Burns, who is known for her success in fighting summer reading slide, and Lou Bernardi of McCormick Barron, the developer building those apartments at Stallcup in Rosedale. Next slide. I want to thank the Dallas-Fort Worth chapter of Women in Transportation for honoring me, along with other honorees like State Representative Yvonne Davis and DFW Airport Leader Tamala Mann. I was active in these transportation organizations years ago, but it's my role with the Regional Transportation Council, I think, that got this honor that took place yesterday. Next slide. Oh, for those of you who want to know the process to getting a street name changed to honor someone, you don't have to have a city council person in your pocket. There is a city process, there is a fee involved, and you have to get neighbors on that street to know what it takes to get a street name changed. This is R.W. Bivens Lane. I had nothing to do with it coming about, but the people who own or who run Sweet Home Baptist Church were able to get the people on Bethune to agree that street should be named after my dad. And so that's what it takes. If you have someone who you know you think should be honored, number one, go to the city website, look it up. It's real easy, but don't forget, you have to get all the people on the street involved in it. You can't separate a street, like I heard recently an idea came about. But I thought I would share that with you just for the inquiring minds who want to know. And I think that's all I have.
Dr. Williams?
Thank you, Mayor. One quick announcement and then one recognition. As far as the announcement, for all of our District 6 residents, we recently had a listening circle talking about reinvesting in the Alta Mesa and McCart area. That recording from that meeting is now available on YouTube. You can also access it by going to our social media pages at Jared Williams TX. Also, we would love to hear from you about your vision and hopes for reinvestment in city services in that area. And so if you do have those ideas, please share those with us by email at district6@fortworthtexas.gov. And if you're interested in joining our working group to continue to further our plans and strategy, you can also email us at that same email, letting us know that you're interested in rolling up your sleeves and getting to work. The second thing is I want to recognize a group of citizens, and normally I don't do this in this regard. We normally do proclamations and go down and make a big fanfare, and we're still going to do that. But with the end of the year, and us not meeting until January, I thought it was appropriate to stick this recognition on here in honor of an organization who's done a lot for the city of Fort Worth. And so I'm going to go down to the podium, if that's okay, Mayor.
Of course.
And present this recognition to the Brothers of Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated. So if y'all want, y'all can join me as well. Thank you all, brothers, for joining me. I wanted to recognize some amazing milestones that you had. It says it better than I could ever say it ad-libbing it, so I'm going to read this recognition. And then if, Brother President, if you would like to have a few words, please do so. The certificate of recognition reads, for 116 years, Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated has committed itself to developing leaders, promoting brotherhood, and academic excellence while providing service and advocacy for our communities. The fraternity initially served as a study group for students of color who faced racial prejudice both educationally and socially while attending Cornell University in Ithaca, New York. The dual founders and early leaders of the fraternity succeeded in laying a firm foundation for Alpha Phi Alpha's principles of scholarship, fellowship, good character, and the uplifting of humanity. Since its inception, Alpha Phi Alpha has expanded its workings and advanced noble causes internationally through its general organization, chapters, and members. Notably, the Beta Tau Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha was also founded on December 4th in the year of 1940 and has proudly served Fort Worth for 82 years. Affectionately known as Fort Worth's favorite frat, Beta Tau Lambda continues to be a beacon of light that continues to uplift communities across the city of Fort Worth and beyond. This certificate is presented to the Beta Tau Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated in recognition of its Founders Day and Charter Day on this 13th day of December 2022. Thank y'all so much for your service to the city.
Good evening and greetings to Mayor Parker, members of the City Council, our dear brother Jared Williams. We thank you for this recognition, and we thank you not only for the brothers in our chapter, which we have over 100 brothers here in the city of Fort Worth, but on the giants on whose shoulders we stand. Names like Reby Carey and Kervin Carter and Robert McDaniel and Russell Livingston. We thank you for this recognition. We receive it in the spirit it was given, and we receive it with the admonishment and encouragement to continue to do the work that we're trying to do in this community. So thank you again, Brother Williams, City Council, City of Fort Worth. Thank you.
Councilmember Firestone, I think you have a few presentations. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming tonight. Congratulations. Thank you, Jared.
Thank you, Mayor. This is just another couple shots of the opening of Fire Station 45 that Carlos mentioned earlier. I just wanted to comment additionally on a couple important things. And you know, those are that, one, we were able to move into the fire station about a month early, and they've been taking about an average of 12 calls a day. And this is the really important thing. With the addition of Station 45 during that 1 month, response times in far north Fort Worth were cut from 12 minutes to 4.5 minutes. So that's just an incredibly exciting thing in emergency situations, of course, that our firefighters will be able to respond so much faster. So wonderful there. Next slide, please. So just a couple comments on the stock show and rodeo. Again, really good news. We want to congratulate them for winning 2 prestigious rodeo awards at the National Finals Rodeo in Las Vegas that just took place. First, the membership of the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association, which is the PRCA, honored the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo with the Large Indoor Rodeo of the Year Award for 2022. And this is the first time Fort Worth has ever won this award, which is really extraordinary and exceptional. Excited about that. The second award is called the Polaris Remuda Award, and it's given each year to a PRCA rodeo featuring the nation's best lineup of bucking horses that produce amazing scores for the Cowboys, talented enough to ride them. The Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo topped more than 600 other rodeos sanctioned by the PRCA to capture this prestigious honor. For the 2022 rodeo, stock shows officials led by rodeo producer Jim Gay recruited bucking horses from 18 rough stock contractors in 7 states and Canada. So it's a big job and a big recruiting effort. So again, congratulations to the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo for receiving these honors. Get ready for rodeo season in January. Tickets are now on sale for the 2023 rodeo performances, and more information can be found at fwssr.com. Thank you.
Councilwoman Nettles, I think you're up next.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I think I just have one announcement. We're excited about what our Fort Worth Public Library is doing. Miami Shore, we appreciate. We have the MLK Poetry and Arts Contest. It's time for the 2nd annual MLK Junior Poetry and Art Contest for grades 6 to 12. This year, the theme is Why Martin Still Matters. For contest guidelines and information, prizes, and more, please visit fwpl.info/MLK, or you can take the time right now and pull your phones out and scan the code as we're talking. The submission deadline should be January the 7th, 2023. And so we encourage all to get involved in this process. And we do believe that MLK still matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And Councilmember Beck.
I think this is the Library Appreciation Council today. We have a short video here. Is it a video? No? Okay. The Fort Worth Library did a Fill the Bag event where 225 teachers visited the Fort Worth Central Library over a 2-day period. There were teachers from pre-K through high school, homeschool, public, private, charter, we're all there. Thousands of books in English and Spanish were redistributed to those teachers to go back out into the community and provide much needed resources for our young minds. And they are looking to host another event soon, so please stay tuned.
Thanks, Elizabeth. And Councilmember Crane.
Yeah, just a short acknowledgement. Katie Wary, who's been my district director from the beginning, she's not here tonight, but she's leaving the office at the end of the year. So I just wanted to do a shout out. She's home tending to a husband who had some minor surgery today. But if you've worked with her, you know that she's been great, pleasant, gets back to you, and helps me run this office. So I just want to say thanks to her publicly for that. Thank you.
You didn't say puts up with you, but you could have added that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll miss Katie, but thanks, Michael.
Next will be speakers on non-consent agenda items.
Thanks, Jeanette. Our first will be Bob Willoughby, followed by Adrian Smith. Bob, you're up. Yes, sir.
Go ahead, play the video. Can't hear it.
City Secretary Jeanette Goodall 5% raise for doing less than the previous city secretary, at a salary of $142,776. City Attorney Leanne D. Guzman 4% raise, to a salary of $133,339. To Leanne, this is not a private law firm. The citizens of the city pay you, and the city attorney has an obligation to reply to the citizens that pay her. The number one question that has not been answered is why a code violation a violation until a cameraman show up and then it is not a violation anymore. Until that question is answered, The city attorney does not deserve any raise. A pay cut is in order. City Manager David Cook 3.5% raise. Mr. Cook is already the highest paid employee in Texas at $368,500, and is banned from overseeing Sundance's Square by the City Council, and now they are going to give him a raise. A pay cut is in order.
Mr. Cook, you got time to comment on why you hadn't answered about our meeting? Do you have time to comment, Mr. Cook, on why you hadn't responded about our meeting, sir? You know we had a meeting, and I gave you all the evidence and everything, but you hadn't responded. Are you ignoring me now, sir? That's okay. Okay, that's the city manager, Mr. Cook. He's turned his back on this question. We had a 1-hour meeting, gave him everything, and he has not responded. No response, zero. You know? See, we don't have much time because we've got to split our things now. We used to have 3 minutes to speak on each one. There's another one. It's the same time, right? I got to speak on it now?
Yes, sir.
That's right. Well, what time I got left? And it's about Councilmember Bibbins being appointed to a board, you know? And you know what I hear when I go to the meetings all the time? How these people are overworked and they need a raise. You know, they're on every freaking board there is out there almost. They don't need no raise, I'll tell you. But also, one more thing to Gina Bibbins too, why she does not need to be on this. Is it up there too, well, see, you don't even line up at what you're talking about. What they've done to our council here is a sin, a crisis. Because you don't even line up with the item you're talking about. You got to say it all now, all your items, and you got to divide the time up, and then you're done before you know it, you know? It's not right, Maddie. This is not transparency. This is crookedness, 100%. That's what this is. But anyway, Gina does not need to be on that board, and the reason I can say this because I do a local voter education program, Blog Talk Radio, and people don't want to come and defend themselves, and what I'm saying is true. And when I say she's a liar, it's true. It's not sarcasm. It's true. I got a video that'll prove 100% she lied to me at the budget meeting. Said she'd take my question in front of everybody. She didn't take the question, and she won't take questions now. Well, that's that 3 minutes.
Our next speaker is Adrian Smith, who will be followed by Lysandra Huggins.
Adrian Smith, let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. O Lord, my strength and my redeemer. There are 3 groups, 3 entities, 3 factions within this city. I feel that whenever they come to these chambers, they get what they want, regardless of the opposition to them. Those 3 groups, law enforcement, developers, and business interests. The tax increment reinvestment zones. Me, myself, I'm trying to learn, still learning, studying, trying to understand a lot of this language. But to our council, those who we have entrusted to make decisions on behalf of this city, what does any of this say? The tax reinvestment zone. I have the TIF 02 for Speedway, 03 for downtown, 04 for the south side, 06 for Riverfront, 09 for Trinity River Vision, 10 for Lone Star Cabilas, 13 for Woodhaven, 14 for Trinity Lakes, 15 for the Stockyard. Now, anytime I hear the word reinvestment, I'm thinking of making something better. Making something better. But what are we making better? And as far as these board appointments, since you all, and I'm going to piggyback off of Bob, he made a statement regarding you all being overworked. My question is, why do you all choose to sit on so many boards if you're so overworked? I feel like regardless of how the law is written, it creates conflicts of interest throughout the city. You all sit on various boards. That means there cannot be no accountability being held to for these various entities should something arise that's considered, how should I say, not so good. So my question to you, and I think I answered the question for myself, so I asked the question to the audience, to the gallery. Those who sit on boards, are they compensated? Does anybody who sit on a board, do they do it free, willy-nilly, just because? Or are they compensated? My question to you all, if they are compensated, how much is the compensation? How are they compensated? And again, most of you all's name are part of these various boards. So again, I would like to know, in my last 10 seconds, when are we going to start having true transparency throughout this city? Because to me, I'm smelling corruption. Thank you.
Our next speaker is LaShondra Huggins. Is LaShondra here? I haven't seen her yet. Okay, I don't think she's here.
Mayor, that concludes the speakers for non-consent items. The first item is 22-2609, board appointments for District 2.
Councilmember Flores.
Excuse me, Mayor and Council. I ask that you consider the reappointments as presented for District 2.
Their discussion, council. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is 22-2610, board appointments for District 6.
Dr. Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to request the council's consideration to appoint the individuals to place 6 for the respective boards effective December 13, 2022, and with terms expiring October 1st, 2024.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is 22-2611, board appointments, District 8.
Councilmember Nettles.
Yes, I request the consideration to appoint the following individuals effective December 13th, 2022, with the term expiring October 1st, 2024. That's already appointed. You're aware of Ms. Crockett for Community Development Council. And I also request your consideration to reappoint the following individuals effective December 13th, 2022, with expiring October 1st, 2024. And you have those names already.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion, council? Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is Resolution 22-2612.
Councilmember McCrane. Okay, thank you. Motion and a second. Please vote. Carries.
Next item is Resolution 22-2613.
Motion, council. Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is Resolution 22-2614.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Gina, thank you for serving with National League of Cities. We appreciate you.
Thank you. For no pay.
Yeah, for no pay.
Next item is Resolution 22-2615.
Motion and a second. Please vote, council. Motion carries.
Next item is Resolution 22-2617.
Yes, thank you. Motion and a second. Please vote. Elizabeth. Motion carries.
Next item is Resolution 22-2616.
Councilman Flores.
Move for approval.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is Resolution 22-2618.
Motion and a second, council. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 22-0988 with report by Acting Captain Brian Klaus.
Good evening. I'm Brian Klaus. I'm the lieutenant over the Youth Services section, which includes our School Resource Officer program and the juvenile records. I've been asked to come up here and talk about the curfew ordinance, which is set to expire in January if it is not renewed. The purpose of this public hearing is to review whether the city's curfew ordinance should be continued for 3 more years. The state requires municipalities to conduct 2 public hearings to review and approve the curfew ordinance every 3 years. Tonight is a second public hearing. The first public hearing was held November 29th, 2022. The City Council last approved the ordinance in January 2020. If the City Council does not approve the ordinance after today's public hearing, the curfew ordinance will expire on January 14th, 2023. If the curfew ordinance is approved, it will be in effect until 2026. In the past 3 years, since October 2019, the number of curfew citations decreased by approximately 59.7%. Although there's no tangible mechanism to measure the absence of crime, it is believed that the number of citations has decreased due to the reduced number of juveniles on the streets between the hours of 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. The ordinance is not used often, but it is a good tool for officers in the field to address juvenile-related issues. The renewed curfew hours would be 11 p.m. on any Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday until 6 a.m. of the following day, and 12:01 a.m. until 6 a.m. on Saturday or Sunday. The Police Department, Marshal Division, and Municipal Prosecutor have not experienced any problems with enforcing and prosecuting curfew violations. The public hearing should now be open for public comment, and then the City Council should consider approving the curfew ordinance M&C.
Thank you, Captain. Any questions, council members? Councilmember Nettles, I think he's got one question. I've got a motion on the floor, though. Go ahead, Chris.
I do have a question. I think I asked last time, but I done slept and done other things since then too. What type of communication did, what kind of communication did you guys do to get the neighborhood aware of putting this back in play?
I'm just aware of this, the public hearings that we've had in November and then on tonight.
Okay. I would just encourage, especially now that we have Renee on staff, is that in the future that we do a better job of communicating. For one, there were several people who reached out to me in the summer requesting for a curfew, but we already had it in play, but they didn't realize that the city had a curfew. And so I think it's important that they do know that it's a curfew in play, and that what is the standard of that curfew. So when we get back to this maybe 3 years from now, if Renee is still here, I think we need to get with him so that we can roll out more of a, because nobody's here. Right. I mean, people who may be concerned about it, they're not here at this public hearing. So I think we need to figure out how we do the public hearing in the community, in the neighborhood, just for food for thought. But thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Captain. We do have one speaker on this. Sorry, we'll have to do a motion in a second because I do have a speaker. We'll come back to motions. Go ahead, Jared.
Thank you for the presentation. I just had one request. I know the City Council reviews every 3 years. I'd personally be interested in getting an update more frequently. So I just want to give y'all a heads up on that, maybe once a year or biannually, just so we know how we're progressing and if there's anything that we need to do as a council to assist. At least we'll be updated within that 3 years regularly.
Yes, sir.
And thank you, Captain. Appreciate you. Our speaker on this item is Adrian Smith.
Adrian Smith again. As I stated previously, just remember the first thing that came out of my mouth. Regarding this curfew, Mr. Nettles, you hit the nail on the top of the head. I don't feel we should have to wait. This doesn't expire till 2023. I feel like you all can continue this item one more time and do what's necessary to get whatever information that needs to get out to your constituents about this curfew. Now, you can't just think that the people that call Forward home and who's Forward has been home to for years and years and years after years, you said some people didn't know. We can't think that everyone knows. You also got to factor in people who are migrating here. You have to factor those individuals in. We just can't vote this in and then just blindly just allow PD to do what they know to do. Because they're going to do exactly what they do, follow whatever it is that they follow. So to ensure that the youth of this community, the youth of this city, are not just caught off guard with a curfew, how about we take some necessary funding that I'm sure the taxpayers wouldn't mind giving up to get some information out to these constituents? I mean, people do it when they politicking. Your mailbox are always overfilled with stuff you don't want when it's time for, you know, the political season. So how about we do that, put that same energy into getting this information out regarding the curfew? Another thing we should factor in, a lot of our youth are becoming homeless. So you have to factor in the fact that a lot of youth are becoming homeless. They're not becoming homeless because they choose to be homeless. They're becoming homeless for reasons that are out of their control, and I surely don't want to hear about homeless youth being cited for a curfew violation when they live on the streets. So living on the streets is their home, which puts them in a space of being out after curfew hours. So a lot to consider. The $500, I believe it is, fee that these youth have to pay, which I'm sure a lot of them don't have jobs. So this amount will fall onto their parents, and we know how the process works. If they don't follow through with whatever citation or summons there is, it becomes more of a bigger legal problem. So how about we consider lower that $500 to maybe, I'll say $100. I think some of us can deal 100, or maybe nothing. Thank you.
That's the last of our speakers, Councilmember Bivens.
Yeah, I've got a question for staff, and you want to come down? Have we communicated in any way to the school districts we touch, the various school districts?
Not that I'm aware of, and like I said, I'm over the school resource officers, and I don't think we've done like an outreach necessarily to them.
I thought about Barbara Griffith. Barbara is the public information officer for Fort Worth ISD. I don't know who's over Crowley and the others that we touch, but my question, based on the question from Councilmember Nettles and the input from Mr. Smith, you know, is there any legal time constraint that we have to do this today?
Leanne's looking for, here comes Letitia.
Because if we don't, there are some ready stakeholders we could reach out to and at least communicate this to.
Mayor and members of council, the teen curfew expires the second week of January. We did this December in an abundance of caution. There's one council meeting on January 10th that it could be continued to. But if we don't address it on January 10th, for whatever reason, we wouldn't have another council meeting until it expires.
So you wouldn't have any problem with continuing it until January 10th?
Legally, you could continue it until January 10th.
You know, what we've heard, there are some valid points that are raised, and communications is very important. And it's not like we don't know who we can reach out to get information to this targeted audience. And so how do I withdraw my motion and change it to a motion to continue for January 10th?
I think you did correctly. Yeah, I think you just did it, yes.
Okay, I move that we continue this until January 10th, provided that we connect with the necessary stakeholders, and I can help you guys with getting those PIOs. I wouldn't rely on the police student officers at the schools. That's not their job, but they do have PIOs around. And then we also have media involving the communities that we know that need to get this information. So do I have a second? Second. Okay.
On the floor, council, vote on the motion to continue. Motion passes.
Next item is MNC 22-1066 with a report by City Staff Keith Morris.
Mayor, Council, the purpose of today's hearing is to receive public comment and act on an amendment to the fiscal year 2023 budget of the Crime Control and Prevention District budget. City Council approval is the final step in the CCPD budget amendment process. The budget amendment that was approved by the CCPD board increases the recruitment and training initiative by $1,565,598.07 from fund balance to increase the annualized rate for police trainees starting December 31st, 2022. At the November 29th CCPD board meeting, staff made a recommendation to increase the current annualized rate for police trainees from $40,040 to $55,536 per year. The pay rate increase will make Fort Worth Police Department more competitive with other Texas cities' police training programs. The new rate increase will increase Fort Worth Police Department's trainee pay from the second lowest of the top 10 largest cities in Texas to the mid-range, with 4 cities paying more and 5 cities paying less. Following this increase, the pay rate of trainees will be reviewed by the city on a recurring basis to ensure that Fort Worth remains competitive. The amendment moves $1,565,598.07 into the recruitment and training initiative from fund balance to increase the hourly pay rate for police trainees. The CCPD board held a public hearing and approved these amendments at its meeting on November 29th, 2022. Following any public comment, staff recommends that City Council close the public hearing and act on the budget amendment and M&C.
Thank you, Keith. Any questions, council? I think Councilmember Beck.
I'm going to move to close the public hearing and, oh, we do, okay, sorry. So I just want to say, I wholeheartedly support this measure. I'm a firm believer of you get what you pay for. And if we want the best police force in the nation, we have to make sure that we're recruiting the best and top candidates. And I think this puts us on par to be able to do that. And it makes us competitive with other cities so that we make sure they're coming to Fort Worth and we're not losing to other jurisdictions. So thank you for this.
Thanks, Councilmember Beck. Any other questions, council members? No?
I'll jump in really quick.
Go ahead,
Keith,
Dr. Williams.
Keith, thank you for this. Just to echo the sentiments, I support this. I think it's a good first step. And I think it's important that we continue to think about how we also invest in recruiting here locally as well. I know we had talked about, the need to continue to stay competitive. Can you just speak briefly to what your plans are to continue to look at this and also make sure that it's not bumping into the starting salary for sworn officers, and as the collective bargaining comes up again, that we'll continue to look at this pay?
Yes, thank you. We work with City HR to review the pay of other cities and went with their, they made the recommendation, we put it forward from there. We'll continue to work with them on a recurring basis with the annual budget process, my understanding, to make sure we remain competitive in that way.
Awesome, thank you. I'm excited to support this.
Thank you very much, Keith. Our speaker on this item is Bob Willoughby.
I can get this on there where I can read it, turn it around upside down. It's up. Can we blow it up just a little bit? What this is a, okay, that'd be good right here. What I have a problem is Mr. Morse here. We had a live town hall meeting and we invited CCPD funds, and I called his office telling that we've gotten calls that there's some complaints about what's happening with these funds. Would he like to come to our meeting, a public meeting, and help us clear this up? I get no response, no emails. I put this in the weekly, and I put it in there. It says, we invited Keith Morse, but he hadn't came, no responses. You call him. We put that in there. Then I get a response. Yet they still don't come to the meeting to answer any questions or take any questions with the CCD funds. So it only makes more suspicion when he doesn't come out. So I'm not comfortable with this man in this position. If he can't come and speak to us, because this is not a privately owned organization. It's a city organization. I just got this today. It just came in. I'm gonna get this up right quick. See if you can narrow it down or whatever. I called for the, I went through an open request for CCD funds, and what we're doing is that they got in the last year or so, whose money gone out to. We got a lot of questions already, and what we're gonna do is an independent audit on these. I know the person the city hired to do the audits for the city. I don't trust the city with anything, okay? I'd rather do our own independent that way. And on my website and my Facebook and my Nextdoor, if you get on those, anything that comes up funny, we will put it on there for you to know for yourself. This is stuff that we have to work to get at, but some of these things I don't understand already about these things. But we're going to do it independent on all of these. You can always go to the city website and pull this stuff up. You want to contact me here, and like I said, and you'll find my website. They don't even put it up there since Maddie Parker's been here. 8 years of Bessie Price, she let me put my website up. Maddie Parker won't. That's transparency, I'll tell you. I can't wait to May that we have an election. You've got to go, girl. You've got to go. This place is terrible now. Since you've been here, no one has changed Fort Worth this much in this short of time. Anyway, the CCP funds, like I say, when you call and you say there's a problem, people are saying bad things, you should jump to answer and take care of it. Mr. Morse didn't do that. They stayed in the shadows, okay? This is our money. We should know where it's going. We're doing a full audit on all those names. You can go back to the website, city website, and be able to see that and those names yourself. You can do the audit if you want. I'd use all the help I can get. I feel like I'm alone on this case sometimes. Anyway, so anyway, I'm running out of time here. I got 18, 17, 16, 15 seconds left. Well, something I wanted to say, but I forgot. It's not that important anyway. Oh, yeah. You notice how they got the raises, everything that ran down this thing here? You don't even know when, like, Gina just got accepted to the board. They just run down to that. This is terrible. We got to get our agenda back. Thank you.
I think that's the last of our speakers on that one, Council. Any other discussion, council members, on this item? Really thanks to Keith, and I know Chief Julie Swearingen worked really hard on this, and Deanna with HR and her team. This is an important move to just re-articulate. We went from $40,000 to $55,000 a year for our recruits to stay competitive with other cities, especially North Texas. So special thanks to this council for approving these dollar amounts, and more to come in the near future. So with that, council, I'll take a motion. Motion a second, please vote. Perfect. We have a second then down here in Gina. Perfect. Motion carries.
Next item is SP-22-010.
Councilmember Beck, we have a few speakers on this item. Our first one is Chris Herman, followed by Susan Kidron. Excuse me, Susan.
I think there's a presentation for this. I think. Oh, there it is. Good. Yeah, I'll push through it. Thank you. Mayor and Council, good evening. Hope you're having a good one. My name is Chris Herman. I am Director of Development for Kimco Realty, based out of Fort Worth, 2600 West 7th Street. Today I'm here to talk to you guys about our site plan amendment SP-22-010 for Montgomery Plaza. What you'll see on the screen here is just a slight rendering of what we're looking to do at the shopping center itself. SP-22-101 was approved by zoning back in October of this year, unanimously, and we're supporting and happy for that. And we worked well with the community to get through that process, and with City Council and the group and Zoning Council to get everything processed through. So we appreciate the time for the city put in for this. Again, site plan number SP-22-101. It is mixed use currently today, MU2, of existing PD 574. The lots that we're specifically talking about today are lot 1R and 3R, which are shown here, not in the gray. As I mentioned, the current property is zoned MU2. It's by right, retail multifamily is allowed. We're looking to have a site plan amendment for this project without any variances. It's going to be a phased construction, repositioning of limited retail on the shopping center itself. We're adding 1.3 acres of mixed use and amenity space in there. The green area is shown out there, currently not on the shopping center today. And we're also focused on the creation of a northern access to Adolph Street to alleviate the traffic concerns within the shopping center. Back in our zoning case, traffic was a concern and discussion point. The city traffic engineers approved the traffic study developed by Kimley Horn on that process. This is the approved plan from zoning council. And with working with the city, with the community, we had 2 modifications that we added to it. One was to notify that the construction access for Adolph Street was actually on the plan as a construction access. And the second one was to include dog parks within the open spaces, and we've done that very easily for the team. I'd like to bring Susan Kedron up to finish off the presentation and chat a little bit. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the Fort Worth City Council. Suzanne Kedron, 777 Main Street. We've worked very diligently with our neighbors. What resulted in those meetings was a lot of support, and then we also had a 10-point letter, a letter of understanding. I have the letter right here before you on the screen. And I also have some copies that I'll enter into the record. There were 10 key areas in this particular letter. It dealt with things from traffic, how we handled Adolph Street, some of the intersections, our building design and materials, security and maintenance, some of the new retail uses on the site, the dog park that we had talked about, that Chris talked about earlier, and some of the future development on the site. Again, I'm going to hand out that letter so it becomes part of the record, and we're here for any questions you might have.
Thank you, Susan. Any questions, Councilmember Beck?
Not right now. I think we're good.
Thank you.
Are those all of our speakers? Yes.
That's lots of our speakers, yes.
First, I just want to, there's some folks in the audience that have worked really hard on this project. And they're members of the community that volunteered their time and really worked on behalf of not just their immediate building, but really focusing on how we could make West 7th and the entire corridor a better place to live, work, and play. And so I really want to thank you for all of the hours that y'all have spent in to get to this 10-point letter. I know it involved lots of negotiations, walking the site several times to get there. So thank you so much for your support, because I would not feel comfortable moving forward with this zoning case if you had not taken the time to do so. And so with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve SP 22-10, with the revised site plan dated December 12th, 2022, to make part of the record the letter of understanding between Kimco and representative owners of 1 Montgomery Plaza. The letter of understanding addresses some of the following concerns: traffic. And so Kimco has agreed to continue to work with the city to address existing conditions and improve traffic in and around the property, and work collaboratively with the city, railroad, and master association to improve traffic flow regarding the intersection connecting Montgomery Plaza to West 7th and the railroad crossing. The construction of Adolph Street, Kimco agrees that Adolph will be used as a construction entrance, and the extension of Adolph must be constructed and accepted by the city prior to occupancy of the units by residents. Building materials, Kimco agrees on level 1 that materials allowed are stone, brick, terracotta, precast concrete, stucco, and prefabricated panels with no cement board. And on level 2 and above, construction will be limited to those same materials and no more than 20% cement board or hardy plank. As to pedestrian safety, Kimco agrees to monitor pedestrian flows and make changes as necessary to ensure that the existing and future facilities comply with ADA standards. Retail, Kimco agrees to abide by the existing operation and easement agreement regarding the use of property, specifically relating to the number of bars that can go into the development. Parking, Kimco agrees to ensure the residents park in designated residential spaces and not retail spaces. Is that an accurate reflection, Mr. Irwin? We good on that? Okay. Yes. So let me clarify. To ensure that residents are parking in designated residential areas, and that our retail folks are parking in the designated retail area, and that we're not causing any consternation to the folks that currently live there or future residents. And so with all of that, I'm also going to direct staff on the following. It's very important for this agreement to move forward, and for this to, to reduce impacts to the community, that you coordinate the use and as the construction entrance of Adolph Street, and that we do not allow in the construction and acceptance of the extension of Adolph Street be prior to allowing occupancy in that particular building. So that way, we are not adding to the additional traffic on West 7th without having a second access point as residents start to move into these new units. And then also, I'm asking staff to place a copy of the letter that was presented today in the zoning case file so that it's on record with the city, and that we make sure that all of those agreements are done as planned. So move to approve.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Any other discussion, council? Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-165.
We have one speaker on this item, Ray Ojeski.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Ray Ojeski, representing the Eagle Mountain Saginaw Independent School District. On this case, Council, the district continues to be concerned about the impact that the proposed multifamily development would have on the Northbrook Elementary School, which is the school that will be most affected by students that live in this development. The proposed zoning of D high-density multifamily would allow up to 32 units per acre. With this acreage would be about 563 units. The school currently has an enrollment of about 600 kids, and it just can't handle an impact of approximately 197 students is what the district demographer would estimate would come from this development. So tonight, the district is supportive of a continuance to continue discussions with the developer that will lead to some type of agreement that will minimize the impact that this development will have on this school and the district itself. With that, I'll conclude my comments. Thank you.
Councilmember Flores.
Thank you, Ray, and I appreciate you continuing to make outreach to the developer on behalf of the district. And with those comments that encapsulate where we are right now, I move to continue this case to see if there is opportunity to reach an agreement involving the student enrollment capacity as it impacts the total number of apartment units to the February 2023 meeting, the zoning meeting for council, whenever that date is, staff.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
And just so everyone knows, that would be February 14th, 2023. Next item is ZC-22-166.
Councilmember Firestone, we have no speakers on this item.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I just wanted to note that I've had the opportunity to meet with the developer and learn of additional commercial development around this property, which was not mentioned at the zoning commission. So because of this, I feel there is commercial services available for the addition of build-to-rent housing that is needed in this area. So I'm going to make a motion to approve.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-061.
We have a few speakers on this item. Councilmember Flores. Our first speaker is Cheryl West, followed by Craig Cavalier.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. My name is Cheryl West. I am a lifetime resident of Fort Worth. I reside at 3700 Tulip Tree Drive in Fort Worth. I have been in the stockyards, selling the stockyards and promoting the stockyards for tourism for 8 years. If you look at page 5 of your zoning staff report, applicable stockyards form-based code, the objective is to promote development that is compatible with the historic district along its edge while permitting a transition to buildings of larger scale farther away from the district, the historic district. Development also is intended to be influenced by the design traditions of the historic district in terms of form, materials, and character, but in more abstract ways than within the historic district itself. The intent is to promote best practices in urban design. And I hope that you really keep that in mind when you're voting for this change. I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous. This is my first time.
You're doing well.
We need some protection on the zoning in order to make an investment in the area. When the form-based code was created, flexibility was more important than precision, given the lack of a plan. Now we have documented success of how tourism drives revenue. The district hosted over 8.2 million visitors in the past 12 months. We are local drive, state, and natural centric. We are one of the most visited entertainment districts in America. To that end, to the contrary, the legacy development of Western lifestyle, entertainment, and hospitality and retail, we need more content and activations. Residential apartments are not a match with the mission of the district as a facilitator of tourism. The district and the brand, you wear a longhorn on your collars, is of the city of Fort Worth will not benefit from living units. Rather, it will shine brighter with creative and productive hospitality during entertainment on brand lifestyle brands, corporate offices, and the like. All of us in the 200-acre district owe it to the city, the state, and frankly, the country to stay true to the values of the stockyards, the heritage, and the preservation promises made within the district put on reset by Betsy Price and the council in 2014 when it entered the public-private partnership.
Thank you, Ms. West. Our next speaker is Craig Cavalier, followed by Pam Minnick.
Good evening. Craig Cavalier with Stockyards Heritage, Majestic, and the Hickman family, representing roughly 70 acres in the Fort Worth Stockyards. The district's approximately 200 acres, and we own about 70 of that. We also manage Cowtown Coliseum on behalf of the city and are proud to have been, I think, on that about 2 years now. For context, I was here in 2014 when Betsy and the rest of the council adopted a zoning, I believe it was a MU2 zoning at the time, that would accomplish a lot of flexibility within the stockyards. At the time, it was actually an industrial zone district, and you could basically do all of the bad uses in there, but you couldn't do any of the good things. And I think Cheryl said flexibility. At that time, flexibility was essential. The stockyards had about 2.5 million visitors a year. Average visitation was 2 hours. Average duration was 2.5 hours, and then we had about 1.1 visits per year within those 2.5 million visitors. And that had been historically, and that's all cell phone technology based, so not just conjecture, but that had been going on for years and years and years. Up until 2019, that was basically the numbers. We invested over the last 4 years, Majestic Hickman combined, a little over $300 million into the district. Tenants that we brought in, all the Western lifestyle retailers that we brought in, invested probably another 50 or 60 million into the district. We relocated the world, in partnership with the city, we relocated the World Finals of PBR to Fort Worth out of Las Vegas. We have 60 events a year going on inside of the Coliseum that are co-promoted with WCRA and PBR. We also brought in the Western lifestyle retailers, and we brought RFD and Cowboy Channel in our world headquarters and studios into the stockyards. All of that, plus a post-pandemic amazing response by not only the city, by the state, and by the locals. Cheryl's about right, it's about 8.2 to 8.4 million visitors on the trailing 12 months. What's most important is we have everybody coming about 4 times a year now, and we also have the locals fully embraced. That was always our goal. How do we get someone from Highland Village, Highland Park, Preston Hollow, and how do we get somebody from Fort Worth into the district? So we've accomplished that through our restaurants, retailing, programming, contestant-based stuff that goes on in Cowtown Coliseum, but also spectator-based events that goes on throughout the district, in addition to all the other events we do down there. Stockyards is a treasure. It always has been. Mike Moncrief said it was the unpolished jewel of Fort Worth. I think it's become the polished jewel of Fort Worth. We have a long ways to go. We have 30 acres left to develop in the stockyards. There's other vacant land in the stockyards, and we're looking forward to seeing additional content go down there. And content really is spectator, contestant, entertainment, hospitality, and lifestyle retail. And we're looking forward to the future of the stockyards. So I'm available for any follow-up if somebody has a question. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Our next speaker is Pam Minnick, followed by Ruth Hooker.
Hello, friends. I'm Pam Minnick, 2520 Rodeo Plaza. First of all, I want to thank you, Mayor and Council, for the time that you serve. I know that this is a challenge, and I see you take bullets, and I applaud you for coming back week after week. First of all, I want to tell you that I do support the plan from the proposal from the Zoning Commission, and about, like Craig said, 9 years ago, we made a promise to this city, and I think maybe Gina might have been the only one that was on the council at that time, but we made a promise that what Majestic and Hickman would deliver would make you proud. And I think that it truly has. Fort Worth is the envy of the entire state. I heard a number recently that the Stockyards surpassed the Riverwalk in San Antonio as the #1 destination in Texas. And that was because of careful planning and, like you said, flexibility. And one of the things that I've observed in our city is that retail and residential work. Residential and entertainment don't work. And the Stockyards basically is a entertainment district, make no mistake, because we entertain those 8 million visitors that come. All you have to do is look at the complaints that have come out of 7th Street when the people flow out of the bars and the residents in the area are not happy about it. The same thing has happened downtown with residents in the tower complaining whenever there's an event in Sundance Square. And so I just applaud you for taking a close look at this and going with what the Zoning Commission has suggested for you, and to keep the multifamily on the fringes, not in the middle of our entertainment district. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Our next speaker is Ruth Hooker, followed by David Conan.
Hi, I'm Ruth Hooker. Thank you all for taking time to listen to us. I own Hooker's Grill at 213 West Exchange Avenue in the Fort Worth Stockyards. So I'm here in support of the changes recommended by the staff, the city of Fort Worth. And really, I wanted to come because I appreciate the consideration that needs to be taken when we're talking about the stockyards, because the city of Fort Worth is very lucky to have such a district and environment. It is not set up to be residential and have multi-family units. So it takes a lot of time and consideration that you all put into with us as business owners. I own my property, I own the business, I've been there for 6 years. I've seen a lot of changes, some that I was against, but grew to be appreciative of. And I know that it's a difficult job and you have a lot of people pulling you in different directions, but it is the duty of the council and the city leaders to protect the stockyards. And that's really what this is about. And not just the stockyards, but also the surrounding community. You know, there's more to the stockyards than just the stockyards. It's also neighborhoods and families. And there's a lot to consider when folks are wanting to come in and ride the wave of big business that's going on. So bigger is not always better. And I appreciate what you all are doing to try to protect something that's so valuable to the state of Texas and really to the United States, because we have a lot of visitors that come from all over the United States as well as all over the country. We have tons of people that come from other countries, even to my little bitty restaurant. So they like how we're moving along. I think that mistakes could be made if we're not careful. So thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Ruth. Our next speaker is David Conan, followed by Tyler Sibley.
Good evening. My name is David Conan. I represent the Exhibits Building Partnership. We have 5 acres in the stockyards. We're at the far northeast corner of the transitional district. It's covered by some of the areas that are being affected by the text amendment. We oppose the text amendment. I believe that this proposal is premature and overbroad. Back in June of 2022, the proposal was to change the use table affecting only 39 acres of land. That zoning case was continued multiple times to allow community outreach. By the November 9th zoning commission hearing, that number had grown to what is presently proposed of 130.01 acres. Let me say that again. They're now proposing to limit multi-use out of 130 acres. We had just heard some discussion about we need to prevent multifamily from permeating into the Stockyards Entertainment District. We have plenty of room. All of these the particular developments are well away from the historic core and well away from the entertainment district. Our land in particular is why I'm standing here is at the far northeast corner, at the corner of Packers Drive. So as just about as far as you can get, we have a railroad track at our back. So to date, there hasn't been really an explanation offered for the drastic expansion from 39 to 130 acres. The community outreach mentioned in the reports has been minimal with respect to us and our neighbors that are doing the one of the apartment complexes that are being talked about. We originally accounted between us two, we accounted for 25 of the originally proposed 39 acres. Again, first time we were invited to meet with the city or had any contact other than those than us requesting information was on November the 3rd, only 6 days prior to the zoning commission hearing. That's when we were told the community concern had grown and regarding the number of apartments, and that's what had permitted the initiative that was being put before us. We asked for more detail, but we weren't able to get any real specifics. As a property owner, that's what we need, is specifics. What's the condition that justifies taking away a property right that currently exists? In their justification, the staff report is best characterized as conclusory. Essentially, without much in the way of supporting evidence, it says the proposal is consistent with city goals, but when you look a little deeper into the report, it contradicts itself when it cites the policies of the comprehensive plan for the north side in stating that the first policy is to promote commercial mixed use and urban residential, again, residential development. If traffic is the unvoiced concern, we were eliminating the wrong use. Hotels, 22.86 more traffic is generated. Specialty retail centers, 566.47.
Thank you, Mr. Conan. Our next speaker is Tyler Sibley, followed by Tommy Mann.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Tyler Sibley. I'm here on behalf of Kairoy Development. We recently purchased the 19 acres on the northeast corner of Stockyards Boulevard and East Exchange Avenue, more formally known as the Armour site. Our team has worked diligent with city staff and the planning department over the last few years to ultimately envision and bring to life a mixed-use project that will ultimately result in the investment of upwards of $250 million into the Armour property. A task that we're awfully excited about and couldn't have happened without the collaboration and partnership with city staff and the planning department. Ultimately, we believe that the removal of residential use as proposed in this amendment will serve as a severe tool to limit the growth of the Stockyards district. We ultimately believe that it will stunt the growth, the energy and the momentum that the Stockyards district enjoys today. Our team, has a depth of experience in developing, owning, and operating commercial real estate, residential uses, mixed-use projects, and entertainment districts across the country, and ultimately have seen firsthand that the residential use is a vital ingredient in the recipe of success for these entertainment districts. We understand and appreciate that while the denial of this proposed text amendment would naturally increase, our residential competition. We wholeheartedly welcome that competition because we believe that additional residential development will, continue to advance the level of quality and the sense of community within the Stockyards District, while providing us all something to be very proud of. So we ask that you join us, in opposition and denial of this amendment, and appreciate your time.
Our next speaker is Tommy Mann.
Good evening, Tommy Mann with Winstead. We represent Kairoy. So over the last 5 years, North Texas has been building more apartments than any region of the country. During that time, apartments have been in allowed use on this 130 acres, and none have been built. So if there was a concern with a cascade of single-use apartment developments happening here, it would have already happened. The reality is that there is no need to act this bluntly and this quickly. Doing so forces us to act the same way on our property. Our preference would be to develop in a methodical way, deliver early units, see how they would perform, respond to the market, perhaps develop more hospitality, entertainment, or retail instead of more multifamily on the remainder of our property. But if this goes through, we're forced to proceed quickly, preserve our vested rights, and build 750 multifamily units. Other than us, there's only one other project, residential project in development in the Stockyards. It received incentives from this body. We're not asking for any help. We're just looking to invest $250 million, which includes millions of dollars of upgrades to public infrastructure, environmental remediation, and the generation of $1 million of tax increment into the TIF fund that can be used for further improvements of the Stockyards. We also think property rights are important. So does the state legislature. That's why it takes 7 of the 9 of you tonight to approve this, because more than 30% of the land affected has registered written protest. If you voted exactly as your zoning commissioners did, this would fail. We think all those things point to one obvious conclusion: a more measured and thoughtful approach is appropriate here. So we'd ask you to do one of two things. One, postpone this. Thoughtfully engage with us and the other engaged property owners. We stand ready and willing with our design and development experience to do that. Unit caps, SUP requirements, ground level design requirements, mixed use requirements. These are simple examples of potentially better ways to do this and address the professed concerns. If you still feel like you have to do this tonight, then please don't walk away from the table. We're here, we've already bought the property. Allow us and the other property owners to come in over time with smaller zoning cases and present you with specific plans and show you how a mixed-use project that includes residential can benefit the district. We strongly prefer to work in collaboration with you, and we believe there's mutual alignment on the vision that I've heard from the supporters as well as you all for this district. There are a multitude of ways to achieve those objectives and include residential. Approving this tonight as it is, with the concerns of the property owners, is not an act of collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mann. Councilmember Flores, it's the last of our speakers.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I took some notes and noticed that there were some comments made that I believe need clarification. So if I can impose on Justin Newhart from staff to come to the podium and address some of these.
Hey everyone, I'm Justin Newhart. I'm the Historic Preservation Officer for the city.
Okay. Justin, I'm just going to ask a couple of questions, and then you can go ahead and take the time to kind of cover how this process worked, how we got here. It was said that we are limiting multi-use, in what we are proposing here in the text amendments. Is that accurate?
There are still over 100 different uses that could be used on all of these sites affected by the proposed text amendment. So those sub-districts are still mixed use. Multifamily would just not be one of those uses allowed.
So specifically, it's multifamily that we're regulating only in specific areas of the stockyards, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to offer that clarification. Is the stockyards just an entertainment district, as has been said?
Historically, it has been a business and industrial district with residential uses on the edge. mainly on the west side and the south side. So the thought behind this text amendment was to reinforce those historic traditional development patterns that have existed in and adjacent to the stockyards for the last 120 plus years.
Yes, is it not accurate that we have a National Historic District in the stockyards?
Yes, the entirety of the form-based code district is a National Register district.
Okay. I know that staff has been working on this for some time and looking at it. It takes time to relook at a plan. We're doing something very similar at the form-based code in Panther Island. We have a form-based code here. The Design Standards and Guidelines Task Force that was created by the City Council back then. I served on that, so I have institutional knowledge as to what discussions were made there and considerations. It was said earlier, by a speaker that we were looking for something flexible because we did not know exactly what trajectory the stockyards would take at that time. So we did not want to limit ourselves. Most urgently, we wanted to get away from that industrial zoning into a base zoning that, again, was suitable, for multiple uses, but it was understood at that time even that we would be monitoring it. So the form-based code was put in place, and staff continues to look at that, and because the successes have been very rapid, this is why staff has made these recommendations. So I'll ask you to kind of give us an overview again of the process here and how we got here.
Sure. So back in 2014 to 2016, 2017, we had the Stockyards Task Force of community stakeholders and citizens who got together with city staff and city leaders to create the Stockyards Form-Based Code District and design guidelines that would guide development within the Stockyards District, for years to come. All of our design districts in the city, we review every 4 to 5 years to make sure they're functioning properly as development on the ground picks up. And we often propose text amendments such as this one to amend the code to make sure that it's still performing efficiently and the way that the original stakeholders who created the code intended. So this is not out of the ordinary. We do this often with our codes. The last one we did was the near South Side Development Standards text amendment last year. So it's been about 5 years since the Stockyards Code was created, and now is the time to make sure that it's functioning efficiently and it will continue to function in the future.
Right, and like any plan right there, before execution, it's an expensive endeavor to do something and then see what the results are. But as alluded to before, there is a pre-existing agreement, specifically the 380 agreement with Majestic Realty that was cast by the council then in 2015 for Majestic Realty to develop 350 apartments over there near Northeast 23rd Street. Is that correct?
As far as I know, yes.
Okay. So there are, and I want council to understand this, there is a combined effect. What hasn't been really said is that the Kairoy Group is also planning, and at one point planned, 800 apartment units up to that amount. So the combined effect is what we're looking at, but not solely in one place, but across the entirety of the stockyards. Because that is, as you know, it makes sense to take a district approach, to anything that we're doing. Concurrently, we also have, the council is aware, a comprehensive traffic study underway, so we can examine, the traffic patterns and already the existing congestion that we're seeing with getting people to and out, of the stockyards. Thank you, Justin. I'm going to yield the floor for the moment. If council has any questions for Justin, I want him to be available.
Questions, council, for Justin? Go ahead, Chris.
Justin, I think the first question that Councilman Flores asked you was, is it eliminating multifamily or, and I think you said it's not.
Not completely, no. Multifamily will still be allowed in certain sub-districts on the western edge of the district and on the southern boundary of the district.
Okay, so tell me what is it, so what is it limiting? What is the change that's taking place that's affecting multifamily?
It's removing multifamily from areas of the stockyards to the north and to the east side of the district as a by right use.
Okay, And tell me what the purpose of that is.
It's to make sure that development in the stockyards in the future is consistent with traditional development patterns in the district and the historic character and urban form and uses of the stockyards, which were traditionally business and industrial oriented.
In the past, have we had issues with development and businesses coming to the stockyards because of multifamily?
No, we haven't. These concerns started after a few multifamily development proposals went to the Urban Design Commission a year ago. And several stakeholders and community members in the stockyards started voicing concern to city staff that now is the time to relook at multifamily again, because we had many discussions when the code and district was created 8 years ago. But at the time, we wanted to leave that discussion open for the future as the stockyards grew and developed. So these concerns were raised in January, February, and we started developing a text amendment response to respond to those concerns.
Okay, so when you say stakeholders raise these concerns, did we establish any type of community meeting with other sides of the discussion?
We didn't meet with them. We didn't meet with everyone until November 3rd of this year.
So we raised concerns in February, worked on a text amendment, met with people in November, and now we're voting in December.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't think that's a great timeline with a major change that's going to affect property owners who own acreage of land in the stockyards. We have a correction?
Daniel Leal, Assistant Director. We mailed the property owners for those changes, right? Can you expand on that?
Yes, we
and all the public hearings, including UDC and zoning commission. So there has been 5 public hearings, and the purpose of those are exactly that. But if you could expand on the mailing.
Yeah, we had 3 separate public hearings at Zoning Commission. We had a hearing at Urban Design Commission, and then we had the actual community meeting outside of those commission meetings in November. So sorry for.
No, it's okay. I'm not trying to trip you up. I'm just asking direct questions. One of my concerns is when we say we meet with stakeholders, and it sounds like you met with people who had the concerns of having multifamily and not met with other stakeholders who is support of multifamily. I mean, you have 3 individuals that's here tonight that owns property, quite a bit of property in that location. And if they were not at the table for the discussion, because maybe you could, the map shows that you select certain areas. And so had they been at the table, and I'm not speaking for them, I'm just speaking from concern, those areas that they own, maybe those could have been prevented from being excluded from those maps. And so that's the struggle that I'm having with this as right now. Also, the other struggle is, and I have been one of the loudest voices on this council when it comes to multifamily and high density and place of residence for our community, because we understand that a lot of people are moving here to Fort Worth, and we cannot afford to allow 3 or 4 people or 5 people to determine how the city of Fort Worth operates and move when it comes to multifamily. And some of the things that I heard tonight was, we like multifamily, but not in my backyard. And that's one of the things that irks me the most. So thank you for answering my questions.
Yes, sir.
Council, if I can go ahead and direct. Justin, were there not a variety of stakeholders present at one meeting that occurred at Spring Hill Suites Hotel, I forget the date, in which you had staff members present, you had members of Kairoy present, you had members of the Stockyards Business Association, which represents a myriad of different stakeholders, businesses and property owners there. Were they not present?
That's correct. Yes.
Was that the only meeting?
Outside of the public hearings, yes. I also briefed the Stockyards Business Association again right before Thanksgiving.
And what I'm getting at, there were conversations, and I think Cheryl could answer that, between Kairoy and the Business Association as well. There was also, at the neighborhood level, discussions and meetings, and they corresponded with your office asking questions about it. So to say that there was no outreach beyond just those that, support this is inaccurate. There has been, Kyroy, who is present here, has been at the table. There have been discussions. They've had meetings with staff, myself, and even Mayor Parker to discuss it.
Correct.
Right, and they've had, of course, their subsequent discussions with the UDC when they went there multiple times. And they are, and I think it's worth noting, they're fully vested for their phase one. Is that correct?
Yes, that's my understanding.
So what does that mean in layman's terms? What can they do since they're fully vested?
Still construct their project, they would just be legal non-conforming.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Carlos. Any other questions for Justin? Excellent. Justin, I think you can sit down. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Any other comments, council, before I turn to Councilmember Flores for a motion? Go ahead, Gina.
I just want to, I guess as the only person who was here back then, I will never forget the work session, Pam. We were in the room, and Mr. Hickman was in a wheelchair at the time and couldn't communicate much. But as we were talking, he engaged his wheelchair and rolled up to me at the table. And at that moment, we had a moment of a meeting of the minds. I know that all of the work that has gone into this area is special to a lot of people, but especially me. As I've told people back then and now, I'm a stockyards baby. My dad worked at Armour's. He paid for my education by lifting that heavy beef, is what he would say, stockyards. I am supportive of the text amendments because I know how important it is to hold to what we saw then. And the idea that we touch up from time to time, I think, is to be expected. But this is very, very personal for me. And so I support the work of staff. I think for those who have bought property and maybe weren't involved in the conversation nearly a decade ago, there are opportunities. But for now, the stockyards need to be the stockyards. And so you've got my support.
Thank you, Gina.
Thank you, Gina. Any other questions, council? No? Go ahead, Chris.
I think Councilman Flores mentioned the traffic study, and I want to know, do we have staff here to ask questions about the traffic study? Or
If I can answer that question, Chris, Kimberly Horn is doing that traffic study. We've already had 3 meetings.
Thank you, Carlos. All due respect, I'm asking for staff because I got a question I want to ask them.
Well, that's
Thank
what
you.
that's what I was going to suggest to you, the staff member that is present. But
I
you can
think
go ahead and call who you
DJ
like.
is coming. I did.
Yes, sir. We don't have a staff member that reviewed the traffic study present. I've reviewed it myself, but I'm not an engineering expert. I may be able to answer any questions that you may have, though.
We do currently have a traffic study.
There was 2 traffic studies done during this case.
Okay, and so because one of my concerns, I think we talked about the traffic study, someone mentioned it here about the multifamily adding traffic to the stockyards. Are you able to answer questions to that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So depending on the AM and PM, there was a AM peak traffic increase, and the PM peak, I think, remained the same. Is that correct?
So are you saying not much change in if we allow multifamily in these areas for the traffic study?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Again, and I'm going to state my position. I think others for stating their positions. And I will say one of the things that is important that we understand that Fort Worth as it was 1980 and 2000 is not Fort Worth as it is today. And although I do respect and honor those who came before me and those who participated in setting the land side of what Fort Worth is to come, need to understand and realize that as we evolve and as we grow and as we create and as different members sit on this city council and this dais, that Fort Worth is a changing place every single day. And so it's important that we make decisions today as we move forward, not decisions that we made 10 and 12 years ago. And so I will not be supporting this text amendment for multiple reasons. For one, I think we need to allow multifamily throughout Fort Worth. I also don't agree with the fact of how this text amendment came to play with staff and with the community. I think we have to do a better job, and that's across the board with the city of Fort Worth. And I believe that we, as this council today, need to work greater together of how we move forward and not go off of what we did 10 to 15 years ago. And so I will not be supporting this text amendment today. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other questions or comments from council? If not, I'll just close by saying thank you to everyone who took the time to come here tonight and over the last really year on this piece, and even the decade before to get to this place. Councilmember Flores, you did an excellent job. You've got a lot of institutional knowledge. I appreciate your leadership here. And importantly, I'll be wholeheartedly supporting you, but to Kairoy, who's here, we're excited you want to do work in Fort Worth. I've met with your attorneys, but I've not met with you, sir, so I encourage you to come sit down with me in the future, in the new year, to understand what your goals are in Fort Worth, Texas. Sounds like this may be your first project and potential. So my door is certainly always open. But my voice is going to stay with Council District 2 and, of course, with the Fort Worth Stockyards and the many countless hundreds of stakeholders and constituents I have personally worked with over the last decade here in Fort Worth. So with that, Councilmember Flores, I'll turn to you for a motion.
Yes, Maddie. I'd like to, again, offer a couple of things. One, we were talking about two different things with traffic studies, so I need to be clear because they were conflated. Developers have to perform traffic studies when there is a certain development impact to the area. Kairoy is obligated to do that, but what I was referring to is a comprehensive traffic study that is being done. And that was done by suggestion. It's a public-private partnership, and we've included all Stockyard stakeholders in this to discuss and to give input to Kimberly Horn on it. None of their representatives are here, which is what I was trying to point out earlier. That traffic study is in progress, so those are two different things. And it is exactly why things have changed since 2015 that we're here tonight. We're mindful of that. Again, just like the aforementioned Panther Island project, which started, years ago. You have to revisit it. Being mindful of where we came from is necessary in order to avoid repeating mistakes. Should not discard institutional wisdom and those that are still here at the table with that wisdom to trying to bring it to the forefront so that we can go ahead and plan accordingly. In 2015, against what it was said earlier, the businesses in the stockyards are having by a thread. There was only about 2 million visitors to the stockyards coming, and a lot of the historic buildings were demolition by neglect, as was said back then. At that time, Mayor Price and the council consummated a 380 agreement with Majestic Realty Group to redevelop the stockyards. And that's what birthed the Design Standards and Guidelines Task Force, of which I was a part. Craig Cavalier was a part of that. Members of staff like Dana Berthoff were also part of that. We used that MU zoning as the base zoning because it was flexible. And it does permit multifamily by right. Back then, that's what the task force accounted for, something flexible to provide economic support for businesses. The redevelopment exceeded our expectations. Now the visitation is 8 million and climbing. That's a stellar statement to the direction of the redevelopment that we started planning. But with all things, again, you have to monitor and you have to make changes on the fly, on the ground, and gradually. Even the Majestic Group is making changes to their phase 2 in light of what we're seeing for the same reasons. It's affecting everybody. So this recommendation was very carefully considered. Stockyards Form-Based Code by text amendment identifies the areas where the multifamily is best suited, where it's most appropriate and compatible with existing uses. We are not, let me repeat that, we are not prohibiting multifamily. It will be in the stockyards, But with all things, you have to balance it and plan accordingly. And this was done with input from all the stakeholders. Stockyards is, as I said before, a National Historic District. It's unique in Fort Worth. There's nothing like it, folks. So we got to protect it. The council back then, as Gina could attest, made that commitment to the residents of Fort Worth and to the stakeholders. We on council have assumed that role. As District 2 council member, I take that role very seriously because it is a resource, a perishable resource of history in Fort Worth, and I, on my watch, will not let that go unattended. And I think that those folks here tonight that spoke in support of what staff has carefully prepared are mindful of that as well. So we need to find redevelopment that preserves and protects the history of what we have now, and also, more importantly, for the future. So I move to support staff recommendation on ZZ 22-061.
I've got a motion and a second. Council, please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-097.
We do have one speaker on this, Councilmember Nettles, Dan Hayes. There's Dan.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Dan Hayes. I live in Central Meadowbrook. I'm the Vice President of the Central Meadowbrook Neighborhood Association. As someone who was involved in the petition drive that led to the establishment of the East Lancaster Avenue Public Improvement District in 2019, I feel a special incentive to oppose this zoning change on behalf of the property owners on the street. East Lancaster Avenue served as part of the Bankhead Highway and was the primary road to Dallas for the first half of the 20th century, when the traveling public often had a need for auto-related businesses such as car lots and tire shops. That's not been the case for many decades, and such businesses now stifle redevelopment of the street for better purposes. You can look from East Lancaster and Fort Worth to Division Street in Arlington and West Davis Street in Dallas, all points along the Bankhead Highway, and see the legacy of those early highway days. There are dozens and dozens of car lots. Many things are finally pointing to a brighter future for East Lancaster Avenue, and clearly that does not involve more car lots. This was part of the reasoning for the council-initiated rezoning of this property in 2010 to E-commercial, which is the right zoning for this property. The legal nonconforming status was lost on this property, and there is no reason to take a backward step and rezone it. So please deny this case. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. That's the last of our speakers. Chris?
Yes, motion to deny without prejudice.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Oh, thank you.
Next item is...
Motion carries.
Oh, sorry.
You're good.
Next item is ZC-22-151.
We have no speakers on this item. Councilmember Nettles?
Move for approval.
Motion and a second. Please vote.
Excuse me, can somebody speak Spanish for interpreter me? Español, please. Somebody speak
Carlos, can you interpret for me? Thank you.
Señor, ahí dígalo poco a poco, yo voy a traducir.
Sí, por favor. Sí, buenas tardes, concilio. Mi nombre es Jaime Saucedo.
Okay. Good evening, council and mayor. My name is Jaime Salcedo.
Real quickly, I don't think we just voted on, was he for the denial case, do you think?
Okay, ¿para qué está aquí, señor? ¿Para va a ir a apoyar
No,
o a oponer?
para la propiedad que está
Okay.
aquí, la 305 Sur Chandler y la 3...
¿Y usted es el dueño?
Yo soy el dueño.
Okay. He is the owner, mayor.
For 151, the one we're on right now? Okay. I currently don't have him as a speaker, but if Chris wants to ask him any questions about this case, to let him speak, or we can move on. 151 that's currently on our, no, it's up now. It's a different case. Well, why is 151 still up if we're not, if we're done?
We haven't voted.
We already approved it.
Me andan diciendo ahorita que ya aprobamos a su caso, señor. No sé por qué ahorita estamos confundidos. Creo porque en la pantalla andan enseñando un caso que ya pasó, pero me andan diciendo, me informaron que ya aprobaron el caso que está aquí. Sí, señor.
Muy bien, sí, porque mi propósito era regresar lo comercial para atrás, como estaba cuando lo compré.
Okay. Su preferencia era que regresar el zoning para atrás como estaba.
Sí, ya.
¿Y cómo estaba antes?
Pues era comercial, pero según me dijo el Siri que teníamos que hacer lo que fuera PS.
Okay. A ver, déjeme traducir ahorita. He's saying that he's here to appear to ask the city council to return the prior zoning to the property, which was commercial.
Go ahead, Chris. It's the denial from the other previous case. Okay. Well, to not confuse things any further, can you tell him maybe we're going to take it offline for a minute and we're going to move on with the agenda item, but we're happy to provide clarification and find him an interpreter. Can you let him know that for me?
Lo que queremos hacer, señor, vamos a seguir con los otros casos que ahorita tenemos en la agenda, pero quédese ahí, regrese a su asiento y después van a hablar aquí entre ellos mismos, los oficiales, para determinar qué es la decisión en ese caso. Por favor, no tenga paciencia y tome un asiento, por favor. Gracias.
Okay. So now we're to Council District 2, ZC 22-157, and we have one speaker on this item, Carlos Nikki Moore.
I'm going to call on Nikki to come on down if you don't mind. I can summarize where we last left off in our discussions, but Nikki, I'd like for you to speak that into the record, please.
Yes, sir. Nikki Moore, here to facilitate the zoning change for Quarry Falls on behalf of Greystar Development. We've kind of had the pleasure to work with Councilmember Flores in his office, as well as several neighborhood associations, Trailwood Estates and Terrace Landing, as well as the Northwest Neighborhood Alliance, on this site plan in order to make a couple of concessions that create a very palpable environment for development in this area. We have downgraded the zoning from a high-density multifamily zoning category that allowed hotels, bars, and entertainment, including an 80-foot tall Ferris wheel, to a medium-density residential multifamily development done in 2 phases, as well as some neighborhood commercial level E on the hard corner of 820 and Old Decatur Road. The neighborhood's main concern in this area was that Old Decatur Road currently operates at an undesirable level in terms of traffic service. And so Greystar Development has committed to upgrading the roadway infrastructure of Old Decatur in front of their development, as well as adding 3 additional traffic lights, one at 820 in Old Decatur, one at the second northern entrance into the development, and another third traffic signal at Stone Chapel Way, which is right before you get to the elementary school. And that has satisfied the neighbors in terms of adding additional traffic to an already overutilized roadway. In addition to, we've also reduced the buildings to 2 stories, buildings number 2 and number 6 along the northern property line. And that just puts them in compatible height to the 2-story single-family neighbors to the north of us. And so I believe that kind of covers what most of our conversations have been regarding this development, but we look forward to hearing if you have any more further questions.
Yes, and just to offer some additional information, we did in our meeting with yourself, J.R. Thullen, discuss the changes in setbacks, to those said buildings. I do commend you and your group for trying to get as close to what is normally required in setbacks, getting, I think, couldn't get to the 66 foot, but got into more than 59 foot, which was very acceptable to the residents. We talked about the green space changes, and then importantly, lot 4, that property changed to CF zoning for multifamily, correct?
Yes, so it's going to, those 48 acres, lot 4 on your site plan is going to be dedicated to the city of Fort Worth as parkland. And we've been in conversation with the Parks Department and facilitating that at the plat change.
Great. Yes, and the traffic lights, the warrant analysis were done by our development, our Transportation and Public Works Development Department. So thank you. And everyone's in agreement. Appreciate again, the good work. So I don't have any questions. Mayor, if council has any questions?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Thanks, Carlos.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay.
All right. I move to approve ZZ 22-157 with the aforementioned changes.
Please vote.
Yeah, that was a freebie.
Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-162.
We have one speaker on this item, Councilmember Crane, only if there's opposition, Amy Sealing.
Amy, hey there. I know it's been a long road to hoe to get here, and I'm proud of you. This is for North Texas Karate Academy. So, Mayor, she is an 8th degree black belt in Taekwondo, blue belt in Jiu-Jitsu, and a brown belt in Aikido, and I would not do anything except move to approve this.
Please vote. Carries it. Congratulations.
Next item is ZC-22-116.
We have one speaker on this item, Councilmember Beck Zagros Bigvend. You can tell me how much I butchered your name.
Hello. I have a presentation with slides. Did you receive that? From.
She's checking, just a second. (116).
Okay. 1908 May Street is a 50 by 100 infill lot that's zoned as a duplex, and it's 50 feet away from a commercial neighborhood E building we own. The blue dot is the blue pin is the land. 50 feet to the north, the white building is a 4,800 square foot neighborhood E building that is on trajectory to, as you said, to be basically demolition by neglect. It's a 100-year-old building that we have hired Frank Neal and Associates Engineering to check the structural soundness, and they said the building is structurally sound. The problem we have is we don't have parking. The gentleman that is directly to the south of that building, he owns the house. It's not occupied, and he won't sell it or he won't work with us. There's a piece of land to the north of the building on the corner. She won't return calls or she won't work with us either. So the next best thing is this building, this lot we own at 1908 May Street. If we can get a long-term parking here, we can bring a quality tenant into this area. And we have reached out to several of the neighborhood associations, including the Hemp Hill Corridor Task Force and the South Hemp Hill Heights, who both, we took notes, and they both, including their suggestions for downlighting and some landscaping, and we've added those to the, this is South Hemp Hill Heights recommendation letter, and the Hemp Hill Corridor Task Force recommendation letter. And this is the plan. This is the 10 parking spots that will support this building that was put together based on the notes from those two neighborhood associations. We also have, out of the almost 40 homes that are highlighted here, these are the homes that are in the 300-foot radius. We have 21 signatures of people approving with their suggestions and their phone numbers, everything. So people, with their notes on what they would like to see there. But we had nobody that was in opposition. Nobody was in opposition. And this is let me show you some pictures of the full disclosure. 3 of these are our signatures. We own 3 addresses here. This is the building here. It's a beautiful building. It's just, like you said, it's just on trajectory to be demolition by neglect. It's down, if you notice further down, we would just like to bring this building back to life, and we just need a not long-term parking, so we can bring this building back to life and we can infuse,
Thank you, sorry.
Thank you.
Councilmember Beck?
I appreciate your presentation today, and I appreciate your work with the neighborhood to get everyone on board. So move to approve.
Motion and a second, please vote. Michael? Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-117.
On this item, Councilmember Firestone, the first is Larry Frazier. Actually, I think our second one is not going to be present tonight. Is Larry here? Go ahead, Sarah.
Good evening. My name is Larry Frazier. I own a home, 9432 Heron Drive, and 2 contiguous lots adjacent to that home directly across the street from the subject property. And I'm here to encourage the City Council to please support the decision that was made by the Zoning Commission after hearing from the president of our South Lake Worth Resident Association, other residents in the community that were directly affected by this zoning change, and myself. Subdividing this lot will result in a number of homes that will not fit into the character of the community, won't reflect the current community at all. In fact, I think I would assume that it will result in an issue as far as our property values are concerned in that neighborhood. We have issues and concerns relative to stormwater runoff. There are no other, if you put multiple homes and subdivide that lot, you put flat work in along with the roofs of the new homes, et cetera, it's going to create a significant issue, greater issue of the stormwater runoff, and is going to result in the city having to come out and do some sort of the installation of systems to support that runoff. I mean, it is really a bad situation for us in that neighborhood if you allow that. Everything out there right now is an A10. We do have some A5s that are just south and west of that lot. However, those properties have contiguous land across the street from Heron Drive that goes out to the lake. So those are significantly large properties. There really are no A5s out there. So please support the decision that was made by the Zoning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. I think that's the last of our speakers. Councilmember Firestone.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, the properties in the area, in this area on Lake Worth are currently zoned either A21 or A10, and the Neighborhood Association is not supportive of having the smaller lots, especially at this location as you described on Heron. So I move to uphold the denial by the Zoning Commission.
Motion and a second. Please vote, Council. Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-132.
Councilmember Bivens, we have our first speaker on this is Judy Taylor, person only.
Thank you, Council, for listening to us tonight. I'm Judy Taylor, president of the Langley Neighborhood Association. I live in the district on Stark Street. This proposal does not enhance our neighborhood in any way. It is next door to a grocery store already established. It is within a block of 2 service stations that are already established. It is next door to 2 schools and 2 churches. There is no way that we would like for the city to approve alcohol sales and the addition of multiple vagrants to the neighborhood. We ask very strongly that the council deny this project with prejudice.
Thank you, Judy.
Taylor? That's the last of our speakers, Gina.
Thanks for coming out. I know it's been a long night. This case has created quite a bit of chaos in several neighborhoods in District 5. The idea of alcohol, close to our children, the churches, the schools, has been very disruptive, let alone the information that this application had been withdrawn or even amended, a lot of chaos. And so I'm going to honor the request of the president of this association and also getting emails from other presidents, and I move to deny this with prejudice.
Second.
Motion and a second, please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-171.
No speakers on this item. Councilmember Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. Move to approve.
Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-173.
No speakers on this item. Councilmember Blaylock.
Huddleston, representing Mr. Patel, the property owner, is asked to withdraw this zoning case. Therefore, I wish to accept that withdrawal and so motion.
Okay. Motion and a second, please vote. Jared. Thank you. Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-175.
One speaker only if there's opposition. Councilmember Beck. Alan McGee.
I'm going to continue this to the next zoning case to give the applicant the opportunity to reach out to our office. Thank you.
On a motion? Motion and a second, please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-176.
One speaker on this, Councilmember Blaylock, only if there's opposition. Beverly Davis.
And there's no opposition?
Correct.
So, and we have no opposition registered from any neighborhoods either. Come on. So I really want to thank the developer, for speaking with us and sharing concerns about landscaping that were voiced by Joyce Thomas, the president of the Woodhaven Neighborhood Association, and security concerns that were raised by Linda Fulmer of White Lake Hills. I want to really thank Beverly and Early Davis for taking their time, having those discussions, and being good neighbors to our East Side community. And with that, I motion to approve.
Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-177.
We have a few speakers on this item. Councilmember Williams. Our first is Silomar Bracho, followed by Robert Blaney.
Good evening, Mayor and Councils. My name is Selimar Bracho. I'm the engineer representing the engineering firm that is working with this development. We are requesting a straight zoning change for this property from neighborhood commercial to mixed use 1, low density. This case was approved by staff and the zoning commission as well. The land use is compatible with this request as well as the comprehensive plan. We believe this property, once it's developed as a multifamily, will bring housing opportunities to this area since there are no neighborhoods around the area, a half mile away the area. It's a good location. It has a good access out of the 35 interstate, and we believe that this project will fit very well in this area. If anybody has any questions.
Any questions, council? Okay, thank you very much. Our next speaker is Robert Blaney, followed by Jeff Cranell.
Thank you all. Dr. Williams, thank you for helping us with this case. I'm going to yield my time to Jeff Cranell, where I think we're in good shape. I'll be available for questions if anyone has them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blaney. Jeff Cranell.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Jeff Cranell. I think we've got a really good project. We're excited to get to work in Fort Worth. I think we've got a good neighborhood. Thank you, Dr. Williams, for your input and guidance, and it's looking good, so we hope you approve it. We're ready to get started.
Thank you, Jeff. Councilmember
Jeff.
Williams.
Thank you, Jeff. Do you have any renderings that you submitted just for the record for the community to see? I think it's a really exciting project.
Yes, Dr. Williams, we had some we submitted to P&Z. I don't know, or to the zoning commission. I don't know if those are there.
Let's see what Melissa has.
Is this it?
You can advance the slides there on the screen. Should be an arrow.
Could you just talk through, just high level, the plans with the rendering that you have of it, if you have it on here? I think it's, I know not to belabor the night, but I think it is worth highlighting.
That's the site location. Where's my advanced slide button? Next slide. Okay, there we go. There's a rendering. We are looking at 3 to 4 story multifamily use right here. The site will face into old FM 1187. We do not have access to 280 or 1187 now, but we do have immediate access to I-35W. And that's our rendering. We will have a parking garage or 2 parking garages. We're still working on the concept plan. It's certainly not in a state to submit yet, pending the outcome tonight. But what you're seeing is a good representation. We'll have amenity centers. We're looking at possible mixed use as well, if that can fit into this zoning category. So I think we've got a good project.
Awesome. Thank you so much. With that, I move to approve.
Motion and a second. Please vote. I don't think Gina's in her chair. Thank you. Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-179.
We have no speakers on this item. Councilmember Beck.
I'm going to continue this case to allow the, to the next zoning council to allow the applicant to reach out to our office.
Got a motion? Thank you. Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-183.
Councilmember Flores, we have no speakers on this item.
Move for approval.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-22-185.
We have one speaker on this item. Councilmember Bivens is not in her chair. Jamie Rue, but only if there's opposition, and there is none. Go ahead.
Gina asked me to motion to approve.
Thank you. Perfect. Motion and a second. Please vote. You can put absent for Gina. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 22-1027.
A motion, council?
Yeah, Mayor, I'd like to recognize Taylor Barrett over there. I know this has been a long road to hoe to get here. Pretty proud of this 5,200 acre development in the west side of Fort Worth that's going to come. Dana, I want to say thanks to you and staff and everybody else that threw in to get us to this point. It's been a long 18 months or so at least, but with that, I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Michael. Motion and a second on the floor. Please vote. Motion carries.
Yes. MNC 22-1074.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 22-1056.
Motion and a second. Please vote, council. As we're voting, thank you to David Cook and the staff, Steve Cook as well, not related, for moving this project forward. We're very excited. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 22-1036.
Second, please vote. Flores had second. Motion carries.
Next item is MMC 22-1043.
Councilmember Firestone, you can do the honors if you'd like to. Motion and a second. Please vote. Yes, it was Williams. Motion carries.
Next item is MNC 22-1046.
Motion to approve.
Second. Beck had the second. Motion carries.
Next item is MMC 22-1047 with a correction for the council district, which should be Council District 2.
Move to approve.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries.
Next item is MMC 22-1061.
Move to approve.
Second, please vote. Carries.
Next item is MNC 22-1062.
Go ahead.
I'd just like to thank staff for all their hard work that they put into executing, or to get us to a point to execute this extension. The work that the Fort Worth Zoological Association, oh, this is the wrong one, never mind, but move to approve. Either way. Bob Bolin, let's go. I also appreciate staff for this one too, thank you.
Motion carries. Wait, something's wrong. Jared, you got to vote. Motion carries.
Okay, next item is MNC 22-1064.
Motion, Councilmember Beck.
Now this, I would like to thank staff. No? Wait, what are we doing? Is this moved?
We already pulled that one. We already voted on it.
Did we? Then move to approve. Wait, then this is the same one.
1062 did not pull up in the. Okay. So we have to vote on it or like. So you have the floor.
Okay,
This is your chance.
This is the zoo,
This
yes?
is the zoo.
Okay, finally, thank you. Thank you, staff, so much for all of your hard work to get us to this point to execute this contract, the extension for another 30 years, the work that the zoo, Fort Zoological Association has done to make our zoo not just one of the best in the country, but the best in the country, is a real source of pride for our community. And so I'm excited to see what the next 30 years have to offer. Thank you. Move to approve.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Councilmember Williams, can you vote on the zoo? All good.
So the last item is MNC 22-1064. Okay, y'all have confused me.
So we're done.
We're done, Mayor.
That's it. We better be done because we're really struggling up here. Okay. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.